Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the March General Meeting of the CSRA Parkinson Support Group. We have a great speaker for you today from Aegis Therapies at Brandon Wilde here in Evans, Georgia. I wanted to take a moment first before I introduce our speaker to introduce myself. My name is Logan Banks, and I'm the president of the board for the support group. My contact information is listed on the back page of our monthly newsletter. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or concerns. Our speaker for today will be Angie Rainier. She is the Director of Rehab for Aegis Therapies at Brandon Wilde. She will also have her team speak as well. We will have time for questions at the end of Angie's presentation. If you're joining us on Zoom, please feel free to submit your questions via chat directly to me or ask them at the end when we open the floor for questions. Please know that submitted chat questions are anonymous. For those of you joining us from Facebook, we would love to answer your questions as well. You can submit your questions in the comments section on this video. Directly message us through Messenger or email us at info@parkinsoncsra.org. Again, that is info@parkinsoncsra.org. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Angie. Thank you for joining us, Angie.
Hey guys, how are you? So we're very excited to be here with you guys. We're grateful to share some information about the Aegis services that we provide for those living with Parkinson's disease. I'm joined here today with Bryn. She's our speech therapist here at Brandon Wilde. She is new to the field. We're very excited to have her as she's bringing a wealth of new knowledge to Brandon Wilde. Also, she is newly certified in Lsvt Loud and very excited to be using that.
Yes, hi everyone.
Dana here is our OTR. She's an occupational therapist who's been working in the field for 25 years. We were very excited to bring her on to our team last, June. She is Lsvt certified and Lsvt Big as well. Thank you for joining us, Dana.
Thanks.
We also have Lindsay here. Everybody should recognize Lindsay. Lindsay's been with the Aegis team for over 8 years. She has a strong clinical background. She is actually our Augusta cluster trainer. And we're very thankful that she'll be joining us and actually leading us in this presentation. We are very excited to come to you with information about Parkinson's disease. It's very personal to all of our hearts. As healthcare providers, we know there are 3 main areas we need to focus on when helping someone with Parkinson. We know that we need to help them manage their medication, with making sure they're on the right medication, making sure it's the right dose and on the right schedule. The second thing we know is that exercise is essential. Exercise is vital to slowing down the progression of the disease process, I should say. Whether that is the physical decline, cognitive decline, or the mental health decline. And then thirdly, we all know that the caregivers need our support. Caregivers need the resource and support to help their loved ones. But this journey is their journey as well. But today, Lindsay's going to take us through a little bit about what we provide for those the physical activity here, all the services that Aegis can provide for you. Thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
So, hello, everybody. I can take this off now. No, it's kind of an interesting sight for us to be seen without masks on nowadays. So, hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm an occupational therapist by background as well. I've been here at Brandon Wilde for almost 4 years. And I've got a presentation that I want to show you guys. And it's going to kind of take us through what Aegis Therapies can offer for our residents here at Brandon Wilde and for our community as a whole as well. We're very excited to announce that Brandon Wilde is able to offer our services to the greater community as an outpatient basis. So we're able to have folks from the community come in and share in our outpatient programming. So we're very, very excited about that. So I just wanted to kind of take a minute and talk to you guys about what we offer as a company to be able to meet your needs. So if you'd give me just a brief moment, I'm going to share my screen because amazing how technical we've all gotten here recently, isn't it? All right. So I think we are in business. So we want to talk to you today about how Aegis Therapies at Brandon Wilde can support you and your loved one live and thrive with Parkinson's disease. We know Parkinson's disease, unfortunately, is not something that we're able to make go away, but we are able to provide therapy for it to meet you at a wide variety of your needs and to be able to live and truly thrive with Parkinson's disease. So Aegis Therapies, we are known throughout the community. We're in several facilities here in the area, and we provide physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy throughout the gamut, shall we say, of care. We have residents that we treat that are in independent living, who are in the community, who are in independent apartments and independent cottages here at Brandon Wilde. We serve those residents that are in assisted living and memory care, and even in our skilled nursing facility as well. So truly, as Parkinson's disease specifically kind of takes us through those areas, we're able to provide services to meet you at your needs in those areas. I wanted to talk briefly about something that we as a company call Restore, Compensate, and Adapt. So the way we approach our care is that we focus on what we're able to restore. So what areas of function that we're able to bring back. With Parkinson's and with other diagnoses, there's a certain area that we're able to kind of, revamp and regain some of those skills that we've lost, whether, from sedentary lifestyle or what have you. We're able to kind of restore some of those areas that need a little bit of work. These would be areas like muscle strengthening. But then there's areas as well that we have to kind of realize that we need maybe some compensation strategies. Maybe we need to, provide some memory aids, or maybe we need to provide, some adaptive equipment to be able to compensate and help in certain areas that we may struggle. And then we can also adapt. We can change the environment. We can change, educate our caregivers. We can provide gross environmental adaptations so that you're able to function and retain the maximal amount of independence that you can in a controlled environment. So, we want to restore as much as we can. When we get to that area where we've realized that we've restored as much as possible, we want to compensate for what we can't quite get to, and then adapt, because the goal here is to retain maximal independence in all areas. So I mentioned that there's a couple that we have occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy. So I wanted to kind of touch on some common areas of Parkinson's disease, maybe some common symptoms that you guys might be familiar with, and how occupational, physical, and speech therapy can assist you with these certain symptoms. So for OT, we're going to assess the ability to perform everyday tasks. If you're not familiar with occupational therapy, OT looks at self-care. It looks at activities of daily living, ADLs, as we call it. So you're dressing, you're bathing, you're toileting even, those things that we have to do to be able to get up and going in the morning. So we also take from that, we look at instrumental activities of daily living, which would extend to meal prep, home management, and even taking care of others or pets. So we really have a whole gamut of things that we look at. And so we can really, there's that word again, we can adapt the environment to maximize your independence. Sometimes it might just be the placement of a piece of furniture or the way something's arranged that we can kind of adjust to reduce your risk of falling, for just to, kind of bring to a specific example. So we want to look, as an occupational therapist, we adapt the environment to promote the maximal amount of independence possible. We also provide adaptive equipment to perform self-care tasks. So like I mentioned, that dressing, that bathing, feeding, grooming, things that we kind of took for granted, to be honest, before. Now they might provide a little bit of challenge, especially with those intentional tremors that come with Parkinson's disease. We're able to kind of provide adaptive equipment that might help you reduce those, if we can't fix the tremor per se, we can adapt the task. We can provide equipment to allow the task to be easier to be achieved, if that makes sense. Because, for example, I'll give you an example. So self-feeding. I don't know if any of you guys have experienced, and I'm not asking for anyone to raise any hands, but I don't know if you guys have experienced, maybe being out at a restaurant, and you're, just going about something that we probably took for granted at one point, just self-feeding, spearing a piece of meat on a fork and bringing it to our mouth. But with tremors, with intentional tremors, that can be something that is all of a sudden difficult. Soup might be something that we kind of stray away from because, loading food onto a spoon might be difficult. Well, there's certain pieces of adaptive equipment, whether it's weighted utensils or, there's utensils that they make now that, that allows for some tremor, whereas it has a little mechanism inside that has a steadying device for a spoon so that the actual utensil itself stays steady, but the handle can move. There's so much stuff that's out there now. And forgive the layman's term of stuff, but it's just, it floors me sometimes how cool it is that there's a lot of equipment out there that we can recommend and trial, so that something that maybe was difficult, maybe, with those intentional tremors, you were, I don't know, shying away from going out to eat or eating, in company of others because it might be embarrassing. I mean, let's be honest here. So that's something that we're able to provide equipment to help you guys be able to go through like something like that, like if we're using this example, self-feeding, and it'll feel typical, it'll feel normal. So it's amazing what kind of equipment is out there to take something where you felt like you needed a lot of help in, you're able to do it on your own. So I really think that adaptations like that are really valuable. Knowing those little tricks and those tools are really valuable. Of course, we want to restore and preserve those gross and fine motor movements. Tasks like writing, cooking, and other leisure activities can become difficult. So we want to work on restoring and increasing those movement patterns. And we'll talk a little bit about that Lsvt Big that allows us to work on restoring those movement patterns. We also look to address safety concerns and home modifications as needed. So I kind of mentioned that adaptive equipment and the environment to promote independence. So same thing here. We want to look at safety concerns, what you have. If you have had multiple falls, or if you have an area of your house that's difficult to kind of get around, we want to talk about and address those safety concerns and modify where needed so that you can retain your maximal independence and really, aging in place, keeping that independence and that in your home. And then we also look, this may be a little side note, but we look at side effects of Parkinson's, including depression, through a variety of treatment techniques. And we'll talk about our Lsvt Big and Loud program, but I want to actually mention addressing the common side effect of Parkinson's, that would be depression. So we also have kind of a fun little program that's we call it Rehab. It's using the Nintendo Wii for rehab, and it really hones in and focuses on those gross motor movement patterns. But it's also just fun, and so having something that's so fun like that, it really, I actually worked on a research study where incorporating the Wii and something that's kind of fun and lighthearted and something that, I don't know, maybe your grandkids or your kids or your great grandkids, what have you, may use that as part of their recreational activity. It's something that's just really cool to be able to do, and it incorporates those gross motor movement patterns, those big movements that we are striving for in Parkinson's, because with Parkinson's disease, our movements tend to get smaller and smaller. So it really kind of hones in on those on that gross motor movement patterns, as we call it. And so not only do you feel more confident in those big movements, but it's fun, and it's something that maybe, like I said, maybe your grandchildren or great grandchildren have something like that at their house. now an activity that you can do with them. You can kind of show them up. You can on the side work on some Wii tennis, and then you can kind of, I don't know, maybe school them and school your grandkids in it. So it's something that's fun. You know, we want to just incorporate and work on what we need to work on, which is those big movement patterns. But I mean, if we have the resources to make it fun, why not? You know? So those are some things that OT can kind of provide for you guys that maybe something that you have experienced so far, maybe not. It may be something that you might experience in the future, but that's kind of the ways that OT can kind of help you. So with physical therapy, we're going to assess the ability to move about within your environment. We're really going to hone in on balance and posture. With Parkinson's, it's really common to have kind of that posterior or that backwards lean that impacts our balance. Sometimes we end up feeling like as though we're going to fall backwards. And so we really want to talk about centering or maintaining your center of gravity rather, to maintain your posture and move about within your environment and feel confident in your movements. We want to restore, again, there's that word, restore and preserve your strength so that you can carry out your day-to-day tasks, like something as simple from walking or standing up from a chair or climbing steps, even if that's what you need to participate in. Again, we're going to assess safety with mobility with all environments and multiple surfaces. We don't just walk around in a perfect flat level surface all day. We go outside, right? We walk on cobblestone, we walk on grass, we walk on pine straw. So we want to make sure that we're safe and we feel confident with mobility with all environments and all surfaces. And then we also want to address areas of concern with Parkinson's, including pain, fall prevention, not only fall prevention, but fall recovery, because it can happen. I don't know, and I'm not asking for a show of hands if anybody has had falls in the past, but not only do we want to focus on preventing those falls as much as possible, but if they happen, we want you to be able to feel confident and being able to recover from those falls. Energy conservation is huge. I think you guys have probably recognized that with some of the symptoms that come along with Parkinson's, with the tremors, that uses a lot of energy. So if we're able to kind of conserve that energy and talk about how we plan out tasks so that you're able to conserve as much energy as possible, you'll feel a lot more confident in your movements. We can also address that kind of, for lack of better phrasing, that freezing and difficulty turning. Parkinson's kind of, it attacks that automatic movement patterns. And so if we're able to identify when you have those moments where you freeze or when you have a hard time turning, if you're changing directions when you're walking or ambulating, as we call it, then we can identify those areas and come up with ways to kind of avert that, or ways to adapt through that so that you're able to function in your environment. And then finally, speech therapy. So a speech language pathologist will work with speech production, expressive language, receptive language, your voice, and your swallowing. So some of you might have noticed, so hypokinetic dysarthria is a really fancy way of saying slowed speech. So it has, you might have noticed that with a Parkinson's diagnosis, you might have reduced speed in your speech. And that is because of increased rigidity in your muscles that leads to a decreased strength and reduced range of motion. So a speech language pathologist like Bryn that we have here on staff, she's able to work with you through specific exercises and through using her Lsvt Loud program to increase your muscle strength and range of motion so that you're able to speak more at your normal pace and louder even. A low volume of speech is very common with Parkinson's disease. And so having the knowledge of the Lsvt Loud program is really helpful. And she'll be able, she'll be able to help you with your strength and your range of motion to increase your production of speech. Dysphagia, which just means difficulty swallowing, is a disorder that's often, it comes with the territory for Parkinson's disease. And so having a speech therapist work with you, even though I know it says speech therapy, we also work with swallowing. And so that would be really helpful with Parkinson's disease. So we're able to kind of address the needs there from a swallowing disorder standpoint. So to kind of highlight a little bit about dysphagia, when it becomes difficult to swallow, sometimes we have to change or modify the consistency of a diet so it's easier to swallow. That can be kind of hard to do in a restaurant, right? When you're out in the general public. So working with strength and working with swallowing is really, really valuable because it reduces the progression of symptoms. So you're able to prolong any need of diet modifications or anything like that for as long as possible. We also, there's a common symptom that's called masking. And sometimes that can just be kind of referred to as just feeling kind of flat. And the muscles in our face, we have a lot of muscles in our face. And when those muscles are impacted, we kind of feel like it's kind of flat, right? And so we're able to work with speech therapy on those muscles in the face to increase our expression and be able to reduce that symptom of what we call masking, where we have kind of a flat facial expression and we just want to be able to express as much as we can through our face, but we just can't. So through specific therapeutic exercises that a speech therapist can provide and through the Lsvt Loud program, we're able to kind of address those issues. So I've mentioned Lsvt Loud and Big a few times, and we're very proud of it. So here at Aegis, we have several therapists, and you met them both. We have Dana and Bryn that are certified in Lsvt Loud and Lsvt Big. So I want to talk about Lsvt Loud for a minute. The purpose of Lsvt Loud is to improve multiple levels of functioning, including obviously vocal loudness, articulation, intonation, improvement with your facial expression, which is what I just mentioned with the masking, and changes in neural function related to voice and speech. So you'll see a little picture below here. And so Lsvt Loud is, for lack of better phrasing, it's super cool. So we're able to use a process called biofeedback, where we can measure your production of speech and you can actually see your progress. So you might start out with a low volume of speech, but through using biofeedback, we can increase that volume and you can actually see with charts and graphs how you've improved. I believe that you will find that you'll know that you improve. Everyone that's around you will be able to hear you a little bit better and you'll feel like you can express a little bit better, but it's just really cool to have that data to see how you improve with the Lsvt Loud program. Dana is certified in Lsvt Big. So that focus is improving motor functioning. So what does that mean, right? So we're talking about faster walking, bigger steps, making you feel a little bit more like maybe what your typical walking pattern would have been before you were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Improved balance, reduced falls, right? That's really important. So we want to make sure that we have you feel like you're confident in your movement patterns and your balance so that you reduce risk of fall. Sometimes just reducing that fear of fall is just huge to feeling like you can get around and move confidently in your environment. We want to increase your trunk rotation, and that's super important for your balance because when you can improve your trunk rotation, if you're walking and somebody catches your attention over to your right, you want to be able to turn and attend to that person without feeling like you're going to lose your balance and fall. So improving your trunk rotation is key. And then it all translates to improvements in your activities of daily living, right? We just want to get through. We want to be able to dress ourselves, take ourselves to the bathroom, to bathe ourselves, to function in our natural environment. So those improvements, those are those kind of big picture things that we see from the Lsvt Big program. So I want to show you a couple videos. The first video that I'm going to show you is somebody that has participated in the Lsvt. He's a new participant in the Lsvt Big program. And you'll be able to see how Dana's going to take him through some typical movement patterns, and this is just one small piece of a treatment session. But you'll be able to see how he goes from smaller movements to bigger movements to actually taking some really good steps. And then we have somebody that's graduated from our Lsvt Big program. Now, Lsvt Big is something that's really it's really important that you maintain your homework. So you have your program that you participate in with your therapist and you have homework that you complete. That doesn't mean you might not revisit this program again. So as Kathleen will share with you, she's been through the Lsvt Big program and has done it a couple of times. So what I'm going to show you next is, again, an initial treatment session with somebody going through Lsvt Big, and you'll be able to see his progress, and then somebody that's graduated from the Lsvt Big program. And then we have a nice testimonial of somebody that's been through the Lsvt Big and the Aquatics program, which I'm going to highlight next. So sit tight. I'm going to play a couple videos for you. Here's the beautiful Dana with one of our wonderful patients. So I'm going to play it.
Forward and arms back. Back, and then back together. Now, big step forward. And back. Now put them together. Good. And back. Again. And back. Open those fingers. Good. One more. Now, this next time I want you to get your arms in my arms.
Okay, so we're focusing on big movement patterns here. So let's look at the next few moments of the session.
The big fingers and back. Again. And back. Do it again. Open those fingers. Good. All right, and one more. Good. Okay.
Okay, so we can kind of see here, we put everything together and
All right, ready? Go. 32 inches. Lsvt walking, that's good. Let's have a seat on the couch. Reach back. Remember, we're going to reach back, okay?
so we were able to see how kind of those big movement patterns translate to nice, fluid, smooth walking. So that was an initial session that Dana did. So I want to show you a graduate of our Lsvt program. Kathleen was kindly enough to let us video. You guys, it's just amazing. She's done awesome, and I just want to show you guys kind of these alternating movement patterns that come with walking. So smooth. And Kathleen was so kind to give us a testimonial, so I want to give her the time to play a little bit of what she said. And she highlights something we have here at Brandon Wilde, the Aquatics Program, and I'm going to talk about that next.
My name is Kathleen Reynolds. I have been in Aegis November 2019. Started with Aquatics Therapy, and I have been with balance. Now they have a Lsvt program. Wonderful because it makes my life a lot better. This is my second 4-week session on Lsvt. For the last year and a half. And my husband has noticed how much better I was walking now. The therapists are all very
Hey, Lindsay, we're having a little issues hearing that video. Do you mind turning it up and starting it over again?
Absolutely. Thank you for letting me know. Let me just pause. So I can turn the volume up here on my end, I believe. Oh, technology. Okay, I'm going to pause the sharing of the screen really quickly so that I can address the volume issue. Give me 1 second, everybody. I think I got it. That one? You want to click optimize? Sure. I did. All right. Hopefully this will be a little better. Just goes to show, even Gen X technology sometimes gets us a little bit. So I'm going to start this over so you guys can hear what Kathleen has to say.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Reynolds. I have been with Aegis Therapy since November 2019. I started with Lindsay with Aquatherapy, and then I had Katie for balance therapy. Now they have an Lsvt specialist, Dana, who I'm working with. And it's wonderful because it makes my life a lot better. This is my second 4-week session of Lsvt with Dana over the last year and a half. And my husband has noticed how much better I'm walking now. The therapists here are all very professional, very competent, and compassionate. They all make me feel like it's their personal mission to do whatever they can to help me get better. So I'm very grateful that they're here. Hi, my name is
So that was a testimony that we had from somebody that is very dear to us, that came to us with to Aegis. And as she mentioned, we talked about the Aquatics program that she started with, and then went into the Lsvt program. So I want to kind of use that as an opportunity to segue into talking about our Aquatics program. So here at Brandon Wilde, we have a really nice beautiful pool that we're able to use that's heated to 88 degrees. And that allows for muscle relaxation and kind of to reduce that rigidity that can come with Parkinson's disease. So it's basically performing therapeutic exercise and balance activities in the pool environment. Why is the pool so great? Well, we're able to use the buoyancy of the water to allow us to work on taking large steps, big turns, reaching overhead in a controlled environment. There's a lot of movements, and I'll show you in the next couple of videos. So a lot of movements that you'll see that we are able to perform in the pool that you might not feel as comfortable performing on land because of the risk of fall, right? Gravity's kind of annoying. When we're talking about moving on land. So when you're in the pool, you've got that buoyancy of the water to support you. Not only do you have the water as a support system so that we're able to focus on reaching overhead and trying to lean forward and walk and alternating our movement patterns when we walk, but we're also able to use the resistance of the water as we move through to provide some resistance and be able to increase our strength. So it's a low impact activity, so we don't exacerbate the pain that can come along sometimes with our joints with Parkinson's. We're able to have ourselves supported through buoyancy so that we don't feel like we're going to fall, and we're able to practice some stretching and movement patterns that, as I said, we might not feel confident performing on land. And then we're also able to strengthen because we're moving against the resistance of the water. So we have a lot more freedom of movement with the moving through the water. So I want to show you, these are a couple of pictures. So these pictures with a very special resident that we had here at Brandon Wilde named Carol. So with Carol, she was in end-stage Parkinson's disease, and she had a lot of rigidity that comes as a natural part of this diagnosis. Um, and what we were able to provide for her, no, we didn't walk down and back the lengths of the pool, but she had a lot of what we call contractures, which means that you have muscle shortening of the muscle and tendon shortening, and it can create certain uncomfortable postures that make it difficult to sit up, to self-feed, to function in a wheelchair as she was functioning. So I just really want to highlight the top left picture that you see. Katie and I are working with Carol, and with using the heated pool and using certain neuroinhibitory techniques, while she was floating with those pool noodles, we were able to actually extend so that her foot is touching the ground. I believe that's the first time that her foot has touched the ground in months, if not years. And so the level of excitement that she shared with us was just, it just can't be matched. I won't ever forget that day. So we were able to provide for her a lot of lengthening of the muscles and stretching that we might not normally be able to provide on land. But using the temperature of the water, we were able to give her a little stretching and relief. And what that translated over to was her being able to sit up in her wheelchair comfortably to participate in her self-feeding and her upper body dressing. And it reduced her pain, and it gave her so much comfort to be able to sit up in her chair. And so it just really, she loved the pool. She loved swimming. And so it was something that it was really cool that we were able to provide for her using this pool that we have here at Brandon Wilde. Her husband, Everett, or Ev, as we fondly call him, said that water therapy was a great therapy in slowing the progression of Parkinson's symptoms, but it was a great mental therapy. Carol really enjoyed getting to do that, and the therapist had just as much fun as Carol did. And being one of the therapists that worked with Carol, I can absolutely say that, yes, that is true. We had just as much fun as Carol did in the pool. It was just something really cool to witness. So we have another resident that we're working with in the pool currently, and I want to show you a video, and I'll highlight some really cool things about this. So Dr. Levy, we've been working with in the pool, and it's Katie, one of our wonderful therapists that works in aquatics. And so what we're doing here, it's a coordination activity. We're tossing a ball back and forth, which, I mean, first of all, let's be honest, it's kind of fun. And so what we're doing here is we're combining sidestepping with an overhead movement pattern with something that's a little fun, and it has a cognitive component to it. So the current research shows that incorporating a cognitive component, so what Dr. Levy's having to do is identify where the ball is and use his noodle to problem solve, and use his pragmatic reasoning on where he's going to put the ball back to get it back to Katie. So he's having to think, he's having to move, the poor thing. And so we're also working on our side, moving in a sideways movement pattern. We're talking about coordination, gross motor, big movements. Katie, I know you can't hear it, right, but Katie encourages him to reach way overhead to get those big movement patterns going. So again, as I kind of mentioned briefly before, research shows that incorporating a cognitive component helps to reproduce those symptoms of Parkinson's, and so it helps to actually slow the progression. So if we're just working on rote movement patterns, rote exercise, movement, things like that, we're not actually working to slow the progress and the progression of Parkinson's disease, which is our big goal here. So incorporating a cognitive component to our tasks, which means just like a mental or a thinking component to our tasks, we're able to work on identifying where our problems are with those symptoms and actually slowing the progression. Slowing the progression of symptoms for us and for youth means, maybe less medication or a reduced need to increase that dosage of medication over a longer period of time. So we really hone in on that and trying to incorporate cognitive patterns with movement. So I wanted to show you too, just briefly, I won't show this whole video, but with Dr. Levy, we're working on moving through alternating movement patterns in big steps. We're also working on a time component here so that he's able to kind of beat the clock, and you notice he's leaning forward with his movement patterns. So, that kind of is an opposite of that posterior lean and rigidity that we sometimes see with our with the Parkinson's population. So a lot of stuff going on here to kind of combat those symptoms. We also at the end work on moving and turning. This is just something that is difficult to do on land, but we're able, when we're supported in the water, to do this. So Dr. Levy said that therapy's been good for him. He feels the best after a therapy session. He feels the most energy and enthusiastic and motivated. For Dr. Levy, we combine aquatic and land therapy, and that's been very rewarding for him. And we do both here at Brandon Wilde. So we're very appreciative of his praise and his appreciation for the program that we have here. Wanted to kind of segue into some outcomes that we've seen here at Brandon Wilde, our overall improvement here at Brandon Wilde from our baseline measures that we measure at time of evaluation to our ending scores that we see at time of discharge is 74.14% approval or improvement rather. The market average and national average are around 68-69%. So I think you'll see that here at Brandon Wilde, and not only for our Brandon Wilde residents, but for the community as a whole, we're able to see that we have, using these tools, we're able to improve our outcomes at a much higher rate from the national average. These measures are from our pavilion residents, which is from our residents from our skilled nursing home, but we work with residents from independent and assisted living as well. So we're here to support you. That's what we're here for, right? So we're here, we're committed in providing support to both the patient and the family. So I want to kind of mention for a little bit here, Parkinson's, it's big. I don't have to tell you guys that. It's a big diagnosis. And not only is it something that is very personal in coping with and dealing with you as an individual, but with your family as well. So not only did we provide current and evidence-based approaches and treatment solutions and sessions, but we provide information to the family members as well. If I'm talking specifically about Lsvt, that program really incorporates a lot of homework. We need caregiver support. You as a caregiver, you're here. We know you're all in. You're here and you're devoted to your loved one, and we want to be able to provide you with the tools that you need to feel supported as well, so that you can provide your family member with what you feel like they need and with that support. So with that being said, we're really excited to serving you. This here, I'd like for you to write this down. This is the phone number for our rehab department, and then the fax number as well. So if you have your physician that's wanting to send a doctor's order our way, go ahead and give that fax number so that we can get you going. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we're so excited that we can offer our program and our services not only to Brandon Wilde residents, but to the community as a whole. So anybody here in the greater Augusta area, we're able to serve. So if you know anybody or anybody listening to this on Facebook Live, if you're thinking that you could benefit from these programs, I really encourage you to reach out to us through phone number or through fax number if you have an order already, so that we can get you in with these services. So we really want to support you. We want to support your family. And we want to work with you to meet you at your needs and to meet your goals. At this time, I'd like to, I'm going to stop sharing so you can see us. I want to open the floor to questions. I have our therapists back here that are certified in our Lsvt Big and Loud programming. Please ask us any questions that you have so that we can, help you out and bring you to us so that we can meet your needs.
So we don't have any questions on Facebook at this time. I'm sure that they will come after the presentation, because that's
which we can answer after. That's totally
yes,
fine.
I'm sure that that's how it, that's usually how it always happens. But I did want to just again kind of ask, and I'm sure anybody in Zoom, please unmute yourself and ask questions. If somebody wants to participate in outpatient therapy with y'all, how do they go about doing that? Do they just call Angie? I know you just mentioned that a second ago, but I think we really need to reiterate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, you can just give us a call. or you can just simply contact your physician, and they can go ahead and use that contact information and go ahead and send over that order. So all we need is that your physician to provide you with an order for, just basic any therapy that you feel like you need, whether that's occupational therapy, physical therapy, or speech therapy.
And if it's something that you're not sure of, then go ahead and give us a call. We actually have order forms that we can fax to your physician.
Absolutely.
So if you have any particular symptoms, if you're just like, oh, I have this diagnosis, but I'm feeling some pain, or I'm feeling this or that, just call us. Let us know. We have forms. We'll fill them out. We'll send you, doctor. We got you.
We got you.
So, if you don't have an order or you don't have an upcoming visit, I know right now in the current climate, I mean, it's like it's televisits, right? Or it's
Right.
televisits, or it's months away to see your doctor. So please don't wait. If you have issues or questions, call us and we will handle everything. We'll fax your doctor. We got you covered.
We're here for you.
Are there any questions from anybody on Zoom? I have one that came over via chat.
Okay, let us know.
They want to know when should I start doing therapy when I'm diagnosed with Parkinson's?
Now.
Absolutely.
Now, because not only do we, if you have a decline in function, of course we can work with you on that. But like right now, we can work on preserving your function. We want to work with you on adaptations and strengthening to keep you at that level. It's a muscular and neurodegenerative disease. We want to keep you functioning at your highest possible level. So if you were just diagnosed, chances are, let's be honest, if you're just diagnosed, you've probably noticed a symptom or two. So let's go ahead and work on that.
We want to slow that progression.
Exactly. And what better way to slow the progression when you're at your highest functional possible level right now?
Thank you all. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Please.
Okay. I think we have one.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Reynolds.
Hey, yes, I had a question about once you get a prescription from a doctor to get the service, because you have to start with that. Typically, how long does that prescription last? In other words, how many hours or whatever of treatment do you get? Is it vary depending on what the prescription, or how do you determine how long you are treated?
It depends on what you need, and it depends on how well you're progressing. So as therapists, we assess what your needs are and where the deficits are. We work on improving those deficits once you meet your goals, especially, and Dana might be able to speak with the Lsvt program. It's very homework oriented. So once you meet your goals for the Lsvt program.
I see. Thank you.
Can't hear.
I think we just lost him.
Whoops, yeah, we did. Oh, well.
Well, they are I think they're on their way over here right now. Oh, it looks like their computer died. So
Technology is our best friend right now with COVID. So that was the fastest I've ever run. So, Mr. Reynolds, to answer your question, so Lsvt specifically, we focus a lot on homework. So we want to restore as much as possible and return you to the maximal level of independence as possible. Once you're at that level, we might turn it over to you for homework and for maintaining those areas. But, naturally, as any kind of decline happens, we're able to step back in with another doctor's order to kind of meet you at your needs. So it's very individual. The length of time is very individual. It just depends on how well you're progressing and meeting your goals, which is something that we're very open about and communicate with the resident on a treatment, every treatment.
Medicare also recognizes that Parkinson's is a very individualized disease process, and that skilled maintenance is needed to maintain that movement, that cognitive level. So there's different programs under therapy that we can utilize that we're able to continue to serve you, whether it's through intensive therapy or skilled maintenance. Mm-hmm. So it's very individualized.
And then a follow-up to that is, has there been any change recently in the last, year or so within Medicare? For example, used to be that you could get one LSVT prescription and then, you would get a treatment, whatever that treatment is for weeks or months or something, but whatever the treatment is, then once it's done, you're finished. And it would be a long time, maybe 2 years before you could go back again. But now I understand that Medicare has changed that.
So the
You can go back-
LSVT
you can go
program,
back more recently.
I don't mean to cut you off by any means. I'm so sorry. But the LSVT program is at least a four time a week program
For 4 weeks.
for 4 weeks. And Medicare recognizes that. But I know of nothing that Medicare is limiting those time limits. If anything, Medicare is recognized with the Parkinson population that we need to continue to support them.
I think just in general too, Mr. Reynolds, Medicare has recognized that there's a lot of instances where maintenance therapy is something that we need to recognize with a lot of diagnoses. I think fortunately, thank goodness, their eyes are open to that a little bit. And with Parkinson's, it has a special place with it being a known degenerative disease, where we're really able to hone in on that skilled maintenance therapy and really use that benefit.
That's a good answer. Thank you very much. I
Well,
appreciate
thank
it.
you for the great question.
Yeah, that was a really good question. I expected no different from you,
Yeah,
Mr.
I know,
Reynolds.
Sorry about that.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Let me check Facebook really quick. Okay. Well, I'm going to put myself
right.
in. I just,
Fun. You're in and you're out.
I wanted to thank Angie, Lindsay, the rest of the team for joining us this month on the Parkinson Support Group general meeting. Hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll be back in person and you'll get to meet these ladies and the rest of the team.
Cannot wait to meet you guys in person.
But for now, I guess this will suffice and we just got to keep plugging along and doing our best. So thank you all for joining us. If you have any other questions, please submit them via Facebook, send them to me or on our website. We're always happy to answer any questions even after the general meeting. So let me see if I can get everyone.
We're just being silly and saying bye at this point.
Bye. Thank you from me, Jess.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of your evening.